Alright, welcome to the next video in the series. So this video is going to be a little bit disconnected from the unzipped video just because I'm doing this a couple years later than the previous one. So just to give you an idea of what I have set up, I've only downloaded three images, but you are welcome to have, you should have 4 images for the final project. So I've named my folders like this. Eventually what I'm going to do as I recreate the data, I am going to be creating a stacked folder. So you will see that these will connect, but at the moment this is a little different than the previous video. So in order to open up your file and see your image in ENVI, so you open up ENVI and we're going to go to the open button. And in here we're going to find our file that we were using, or that we had unzipped, I should say. So I'm going to start with my most recent one. I'm going to click into here and I'm going to see all these TIFF files. So there's like an ANG file if you look at the very end. These great big long names of these files. It includes information such as the orbit number, the line number, the date that it was collected, the time that it was collected, and the band number. So if we go along the edge here, the very end, and I find the very end to be the most helpful. LC08 means Landsat 8. But we see B1, B2, B3, that indicates the channel numbers that we're working with. But what is really cool about ENVI, I could select all of these and open them all separately. Or I can open up just the MTL file. And the MTL file will actually create separate databases based on the different types of data that we have in this file, or in this folder. So if I click on the MTL file, looking there, it's a text file, I can hit open. It'll take a moment because they're big files. And it will load the image. So right now I'm just looking at my image. I can use my mouse to zoom in and out. So you can use the wheel button to zoom out if you pull the wheel button towards you. You can also use your wheel button if you push it forward to zoom in. To pan, you hold down the wheel button and you move the mouse around and you'll get your image. So in order to view the whole thing at the same time, there is the zoom button up here, zoom to full extent, and it'll allow you to see the entire image. So you can see with this one that it looks like it's a full color image. And and if we look here, it says multispectral in the name. So we have a layer manager, which is kind of like what you would use in AutoCAD. We have our window that we're working with the data, and then we have a toolbox. It looks very similar and feels very much the same as like ArcGIS, for example, like the old version, the desktop version. So when I open this, I can look at something called the Data Manager. Now, something to remember is that the Data Manager is beside the Open button. And I'm going to say this several times. The Data Manager is beside the Open button. The Data Manager is beside the Open button. The Data Manager is beside the Open button. It is really important that you know where that Data Manager is, because that is like accessing your database. So I'm going to click on this little clipboard, which is my Data Manager, and I want to take a look at my databases that were brought in. So here I can see that they've already been named what they are, which is really, really helpful, because if you go to my other videos, you have to manually name them. I will show you how to do that later when we are dealing with a different version of this. But we can see what has happened. So we have this database, which has all of my optical imaging in it. I have this database. Each of these little plus buttons are different databases. This one's actually just a single image. It's my panchromatic image. This one's my cirrus image, so it has like my clouds and stuff in it. I have my infrared database, and then I have my quality image. So we're mostly going to be working with this multispectral region, but we will also be working with thermal. And then we also have an application with the panchromatic. But for the most part, cirrus and the quality we're not really using. But once it's been brought in like that, you can go to file information, you can see how big these are, and you can go to band selection, and you can choose different ways to do it. Now, I will show you in another video how to do composites and explain that a little bit better, but I want you to know that this is the Data Manager. This is how you can do this, like deal with the data and work with it. for example, and another thing that I can do is open and close files within the data manager. So I don't need the quality image, so I can delete that one. And I don't need this cirrus image. But I have these other ones. So if I do want to load, for example, if I just want to load one file, I can click Load Data. And it will load, and there's my panchromatic image. So at a distance, I don't really see too much difference, but I can zoom in. You can see there. So the difference between the panchromatic image and the multispectral is the spatial resolution of 15 meters versus 30. So if I turn that off, you can kind of see the difference between the pixels. So if I come really close, for example, right here, and we see these 4 pixels, and if I turn it off, you can see how it becomes 1. Right? You can see that difference? So the panchromatic has a higher spatial resolution than the multispectral. And that's normal for any kind of satellite imaging. So once you've brought those in, you have these databases. Fantastic. If you want to save your work so that it opens up to exactly this location, you can go to File, you can say Save As, and save as an ENVI file. And then when you do that, we're going to save, for example, we want to save all of this. And it will only let you do one, right? So you can see that. This is a new feature of it. It only lets you save one of them at a time. So it's not quite like ArcGIS, right? So if we want to save the whole thing and have it open like this, it's not really an option, because all it does is save the actual images itself. So save as, and there's my ENVI file. If I wanted to bring it to ArcGIS, I can. It does have options for that. You can see Irtis Imagine, ER Mapper. It's very, very compatible with a lot of these other like GIS systems and remote sensing systems that are out there. But as long as you have these, right now, for example, if I go to where I save everything, nothing shows up in here. Okay, so I don't have these saved as is. All I have is my raw data. So if I want to save these, I would go to this one, File, Save As, make sure it's multispectral. I'm going to say where I'm going to save it. So it says, you know, Open File. Always check where you're saving things. And this one would be multispectral. I'm just going to show you what some of these do. So this is October 2020. It says it doesn't find it. So that one you're supposed to be able to overwrite. And then we go to that spatial file information, tells us where it's being saved, and press OK. There we go. Now we're there. So now we can go to ENVI, go to the file name. This one is, it says if we want to ignore any values, we can. And click there, see what I did last year. Oops, that's Simon's demo. And this is my stacked data. So I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to call it stacked data. And this is, oops, going to go in it. Then you type out multispectral October 2020. Or if you have a specific day, you only have a few days in between, that's fine. Don't need to display result, and press OK. So now if I come to my files and I go to stack data, it says right now it's empty. Interesting. So there it is there. So it took a minute for it to save. You can see it's saving down here. So there it is. So when I go to open it, we'll just let it finish saving. Let's say I close everything in my data manager. Close all files. I want to open it. I click open and I can go to my folder and I can choose the .dat file. You can open using the header file. I prefer to open using the .dat file. So you can see this 792, like it's a big size, so we know that's the right one. So press OK, and it loads the multispectral file. So that's how you open and close and save. Make sure that you save your stacks like from here. I didn't save the thermal stacks, so I won't be able to find that one. So I'd have to go back and resave the thermal stack. So it does add that little bit of extra time to this compared to what we used to do, but it does save some processing. So we go, if I want to go File, I'm going to Open. All right, just go to Open button. Demo, I'm going to go back to my October file. I'm going to open up my MTL file. So everything opens, go here. And so I know that it's all open in there. So now I can go to File, Save as an ENVI file. And I'm going to save my thermal band. So I'm going to just highlight thermal, press OK. Make sure I save it in the right spot. So there's my multispectral, this is thermal, October 2020. And then OK. Then if I want to save the panchromatic, just so that at least it's accessible, I do the same thing. So I go to File, Save As, ENVI, highlight my panchromatic, press OK, and then we will say panchromatic October 2020. So as it saves the raster file, we'll give it a minute. And that is the wrong one. Try a different one. Just give my computer a moment to load. I teach progress bars in my classes. All right. Teaching, File, go to Demo, go to my stack data, and I see all three bands there. So now I can work with them separately. I'll be able to put them together later. I will show an example of that and how that works and in a later video. But once you've got to this point, you are set up for the first couple assignments, or not assignments, but the first few parts of your term project. So get to this point, and then I'll show you how to change up composites in another video.